Hey friends, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another video here on my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be playing with the September 2022 Spellbinders kit called So Happy. I did do an unboxing, so I'll have that linked down below in the description box. But we are just going to go ahead and jump right into making some cards. So for our first card today, I have these chipboard hoops. They are so cute. There's a bunch of big ones. There's these three small ones, and that was my first thought right away, is I had to make a card using these hoops. So I have pulled out some of the pattern paper that I really like, which I liked all of it, but I'm going to trim this down to be 4¼ inches by 5½ inches. So it will be the full front of that A2 size card base that comes in the kit. And then I'm going to trim down this one piece that has some gold foiling on it, just a small sliver of it, and then I'll use it again in the next card. But it's so pretty. I love the gold foiling on it, and that contrast with the dark cardstock and this lighter cardstock really go well together. So I'm going to use some double-sided adhesive that comes in the kit. There's so much of it. So I'm just going to use this for pretty much everything I'm doing on these cards. And we'll show you in the beginning kind of how I use it and the tips and tricks, I guess, that I use to get the backing paper off. So I'm trying with my fingernails, and I'm successful eventually, but then I realize that I can use my paper piercer, which works really well. And so I'm going to eventually switch to using that rather than just trying to get it off with my fingernails. But I've attached that down to my card panel. And now the neat thing about these chipboard pieces is that they are sticker backed. So you just have to be very careful peeling off that release paper. If you grab too aggressively, you could potentially rip the sticky back off as well. So just be aware of that. But I'm going to stick each one of these down. And then you'll notice I have some of the stickers, and I'm going to grab some of those to put in our centers. I just thought that was super fun. This is going to make a very quick card, honestly. And there's so many great stickers in this kit. Not only do you have the plain like picture stickers, but you have so many words as well. So it was almost hard to decide what I wanted to use. I think that's one of the reasons I love these these kits so much, is that there's just a ton. Like, you can make 5 to 10 cards and still have a ton of stuff left over to make a bunch more. And so I'm just going to find the one I like there. I think that one is a thank you, because I use those the most. And then I am going to put my double-sided adhesive down onto the card base. I found this to be the easiest, and then I find a trick that makes it even easier. I peeled off all that release paper using my paper piercer, as I had mentioned earlier. And then what I tried to do, which was fairly successful, but I tried to adhere it down at the bottom first and then work my way up. I will find that using the longer side is actually much more capable, or it's better to be able to attach those down. But there's our first card. I like how that one turned out. Super simple. And we have this nice cute little thank you. All right, moving on to our second card. I have a bunch of the ephemera out. I love using the ephemera, and there's so much in there. And so what I have mentioned before, what I like to do is I pull all the ephemera out, and I will kind of separate it out by smallest pieces, middle-sized pieces, and big pieces. And then even if there's some sentiments, I'll pull those out separately, so that way when I'm trying to pick out my cards, or pick out pieces for my cards, I can grab from each of those perspective piles and make sure that I have good variation in the size of the things that I'm using, if that makes any sense. So once again, we're going to use that double-sided adhesive, and we're going to attach this little chunk down to our card panel. And again, that card panel is going to be the full front of the A2 size card. I just think these patterns are so pretty to not use them. And again, I have almost a full pack after just making 4 cards. There's just so much in there. I'll say it over and over. Using my glass mat, I'm going to kind of tack that down just to make sure I have it on there fairly straight. And then I'll play around with the placement of each of my pieces. And then when I'm kind of happy with what I'm thinking is going to go on, we'll again use our double-sided adhesive. And we'll attach down this little flower first. There's a lot of gold embellishment on there, like the foiling. It's so pretty. And our sentiment will be, "Oh, happy day." I love that. So this could be used for a lot of different things, this particular card. And then before I really push down that whole Oh Happy Day, I'm going to take a couple of these pins and stick those behind. I did use a tiny bit of liquid adhesive just at the top. And then once those are in there, I'll go ahead and adhere that down really well. And for the dress form, I'm going to use the foam squares that came in the kit. I love that those are included as well. These are so great, these kits, that, I mean, basically all you need is maybe a stamp pad because everything else is in there. You could just take this box, and well, obviously a little paper trimmer as well, but you could take this box, a paper trimmer, and maybe one ink pad, and you have everything you need to make cards. So I think that's why I like these as well. There's everything in there. So I'm using some more of the double-sided adhesive. Here I'm going to use more foam squares just to pop these up, just so that it's not just the dress foam or form that is popped up. I'll do that with our little pins, our pin cushion, and then this one I will use some double-sided adhesive. And you'll notice I have that extra little bird over on the side. We're going to put him on the inside. He's so cute. He's got a little needle in his mouth. So we'll work on the inside, again with our double-sided adhesive. And I mean, there's so much ephemera you could really doll up your insides, which I love doing. I really do, because again, then that leaves a lot less white space to be intimidated for what you're going to write. So here, this one, I decide to pop it down on the long side, and that ended up being much more successful. Perfect. And so there is card number 2, just using ephemera and some of the pattern paper. So great. All right, moving on to card number 3, we're going to use some of the chipboard stickers. And I'm going to cut down some of the cardstock that came in the kit. I'm cutting that down to be 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, so that will be the full front of the A2 size card. And then I grabbed this pattern paper. I think this one's actually my favorite. And I trimmed that down to be a little bit smaller, so it's 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I am going to take some of the dies that came in the kit, and we are going to cut some of those pieces out of the silver cardstock. And then we have our 2 different circles, which obviously with circles, you can use those for a lot of different things, not just an embroidery hoop. And I'll tell you, I had a heck of a time trying to get the glue to stay on that silver cardstock. It eventually worked, but I was like, my goodness, this stuff is so slick it wouldn't stick. So we'll tack down our pattern paper to our cardstock, and then I am going to peel off the release paper on our needle, or I mean our hoop. And then this piece I'm going to attempt to glue it down, see if we can get it. And it's just, I'm telling you, did not want to stick. It wanted to stick to my fingers more than anything else. But it eventually does stay and dry. And we'll stick down our hoop. And then I'm going to pull out the stickers and figure out what I want for our sentiments. So I've got thank you so much. You really measure up. I love the pun there. It's great. And so I'm going to bring in our little rainbow. And then I'll tack down our needle to make it look like we used our needle to embroider. And then I do bring in one of the chipboard, or it's the chipboard floss, because it just goes well. And then we'll attach this down to our card front. And then I will do some of the leftover pattern paper and paper inside, just to have a little something in there. It's a great way to tie the inside to the outside. And I didn't add anything else to it. I just left it as that. But that's going to finish off our 3rd card for today. And I really love how this one turned out. Those colors are so pretty. For our 4th and final card today, I used all of the dies, and I love how the card will show you how to use the dies if you're unsure of how they go together. So I've just die cut out a bunch of the pieces using the cardstock that came in the kit, and I'm going to use one of those chipboard hoops. It fits perfectly around the circles, the die cut circles. So I've trimmed my pattern paper down to, once again, 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And then this heart one, I'm going to trim down to, I think it's about 3 3/4 by 4.5 inches. I'm going to make it look like a banner. So I'm trimming this down just a little. I'll save those pieces for the inside of our card. But I'm going to bring in my scissors. I'm going to cut right kind of in the center, just a little ways in. And then I will go from the outside into the center, headed up like in a slope, so it'll look a little bit like a banner. It's not perfect, but it's okay. And I think it ends up mostly getting covered by the sentiment anyway, but I do like the look of it. So once again, using our double-sided adhesive, we'll adhere that piece of pattern paper down to our panel. And then we're going to start, or we'll go ahead and put our two circles together. Once again, with our double-sided adhesive. And then we'll start messing around with placement here eventually, but I'm going to take the centers that I have. Those are some navy blue centers, and we're just going to go ahead and glue those down onto the centers of our flowers so that we can start thinking about how our little embroidery scene is going to look. It's so cute. A little center for this flower as well, and then we've got more of those little center, or more of those little blue dots. We'll put those on the edge of this greenery. We have another piece of greenery that we can attach this little light blue flower to. So we'll do that as well. And I'm using liquid glue here because it would just not really work very easily with our double-sided adhesive. All right, so once I figured out the placement on our hoop, we're going to start attaching down some of those pieces using some more liquid glue. And then I do want to have a little bit of dimension here, so I'm going to bring in the foam squares, and I'm going to pop up this big flower with the foam squares. So I don't want a ton of dimension, I just wanted some. And I thought that big flower would be the perfect one. So the other two pieces we'll just attach down with that liquid glue. So this little yellow circle, and then this little blue flower. And then we can attach down our hoop. But I'm looking at our sentiment, trying to figure out which one I want. There's so many great ones in there. And I'm going to end up using a couple of them. This is what I'm talking about. Just be real careful when you peel off the release paper. Once you get it started, it comes off easy. It's just sometimes getting it started. So I'll attach down the hoop, and then we'll use liquid glue to attach down our embroider piece. And then I've got the needle, and then there is a little thread die cut. So I did that out of yellow, and we'll loop it into our needle, and then we'll use our liquid glue to put just a few dots of glue on the back of our needle and our thread. And then we can attach that down and make it look like we're still embroidering. I actually really love that embroidery is coming back. I don't really know how to do it, but I definitely want to learn. All right, I'm getting these two flowers ready because I'm going to use those on the inside of the card. I figure if I have the extra pieces, why not? So here is our sentiment. I'm going to heat emboss it with some white. So I've got some of that navy cardstock that came in the kit, used a magic or anti-static powder tool. I've got my white embossing powder ready, and then I'm going to use a clear embossing ink. I'll just ink that up, stamp that down, and then you'll want to cover that with your embossing powder while that's still wet. Get the rest back out of there, and then I'll heat set that till that is smooth and melted. And when that's done, I can trim that down. And I'm going to use some more of the foam squares, but I'm going to use the whole thing. I like to use all of it, honestly. So I cut down one of the edges, and then I'll use one more foam square. And then we can pop up our sentiment underneath our hoop. And then we'll do the inside up, just using some of the leftover pattern paper. And then we'll attach down our little flowers on the inside as well. And I do grab out, like I said, another one of the sentiments, and I'm just going to grab some navy blue ink from my stash, ink that up, and stamp that down. I love that. Friendship is sown with love and measured by kindness. Because of you, I laugh a little harder, cry a little less. It's just a great sentiment. I know exactly who I'm sending this card to. So we'll attach down the panel to the base, and that is going to finish off our card for today. So let's go ahead and take a look at all 4 of the cards that I made for you. I would love to know which one is your favorite if you did have a favorite. Go ahead and leave that down in the comment section down below. If you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And I will see you very soon in another video. Bye everybody.